The massive hull of the HMSS Nemesis hummed to life. The lights in the hangar bay of Asteroid Base Omega slowly turned on. Captain J1 Park stood tall on the command deck. The blue glow from holographic screens lit up her face. Her dark eyes reflected years of pain and loss. 3 years had passed since the Voidborn attack. 3 years since Earth fell. Captain Park had watched her home city of Seoul disappear in a flash of atomic fire. That day was burned into her memory forever. The day half of humanity died. "Systems check complete, Captain," said Lieutenant Hyun-ki. His fingers moved quickly across the tactical console. Each tap brought the massive warship closer to awakening, weapons at full capacity. J1 gave a silent nod. She ran her hand along the smooth edge of the command chair. The Nemesis was not just a ship. It was humanity's answer to extinction. Engineers had worked day and night to complete it before the last human shipyard fell. Its purpose was simple and terrible: to hunt down and destroy those who had nearly wiped out humanity. Atlas Online announced a calm voice that echoed through the ship. The artificial intelligence that would guide their mission of revenge had awakened. Unlike other ships, Atlas had been programmed with a singular focus: to find the most efficient path to the enemy's destruction. "Begin crew revival sequence," J1 ordered. "We hunt at dawn." Throughout the massive ship, hundreds of cryopods began to warm. Inside each pod was a survivor of Earth's fall. Soldiers, engineers, and scientists chosen for their skills and their burning desire for revenge. Most had lost everything to the Voidborn. All had volunteered for what might be a one-way mission. J1 stared at the starfield displayed on the main view screen. Somewhere out there, the Voidborn continued their expansion, building their empire on the ashes of human worlds. They had no idea that humanity had managed one final act of defiance before their apparent extinction. No idea that retribution was coming. "Captain, first crew members will be awake within the hour," reported Medical Officer Sunli from the ship's communication system. "All vital signs are stable." "Good," replied J1. "I want all department heads in the war room as soon as they're cleared by medical." The Nemesis was unlike any warship humanity had built before. It carried experimental weapons designed specifically to counter Voidborn technology. Its quantum drive could outpace anything in known space. Most importantly, it could operate with a minimal crew if needed, with Atlas controlling most systems. "Captain," Atlas spoke again, "I have completed analysis of the last known Voidborn fleet movements. I have identified 3 possible locations where we might begin our search." "Show me," J1 commanded. 3 star systems appeared on the main display. Each had been a human colony world before the war. Now they were likely Voidborn outposts. Lieutenant Hyun-ki studied the display. "The Proxima system would be our best first target. It's close enough to reach quickly but far enough from Voidborn Central Command that we might find less resistance." "I agree," said J1. "We'll start there." The door to the bridge slid open. Chief Engineer Do-hyun entered, still wiping sleep from his eyes. The cryo revival had clearly left him disoriented. "Captain Park," he said with a slight bow, "the engines are operating at peak efficiency. The new quantum drive is stable. We can depart whenever you give the order." "How long until the rest of the crew is revived?" J1 asked. "About 12 hours for essential personnel," Do-hyun replied. "Another day for the full complement." J1 nodded. "Then we prepare while we wait. I want all systems double-checked. We won't get a second chance at this." The next few hours passed in a flurry of activity. More crew members awakened from cryo-sleep. They moved through the ship with purpose, checking systems and preparing for war. Many wore the haunted looks of those who had seen too much death. All carried the weight of being possibly the last humans in the galaxy. In her private quarters, J1 opened a small metal case. Inside was a charred piece of metal, a fragment from her family home in Seoul. She touched it gently, remembering the faces of her parents and younger brother. None had made it off Earth. "I promised you vengeance," she whispered. "And now I can deliver it." A soft chime indicated someone at her door. "Enter," she called, closing the case. Tactical Officer Minho stepped inside. He carried a data tablet. "Captain, we finished loading the target profiles for all known Voidborn ship classes into Atlas's combat systems," he reported. "The AI has already begun running simulations to maximize our effectiveness against them." "Casualties?" J1 asked. In the simulations, Minho looked uncomfortable. "Hi, Captain. Even with our advanced technology, we're one ship against an empire." J1's expression hardened. "We knew this was likely a one-way mission when we volunteered. Every Voidborn ship we destroy is revenge for Earth." Minho nodded. "The crew understands, Captain. We're all here for the same reason." After Minho left, J1 returned to the bridge. The ship had come fully alive now. Crew members moved with efficiency between stations. Displays showed weapon systems ready, engines charged, and defensive shields at maximum capacity. "Status report," she commanded. "All systems green, Captain," Hyun-Ki replied. "Crew revival proceeding on schedule. We're ready to depart on your order." J1 took her place in the command chair. "Atlas, begin departure sequence. Set course for the Proxima system." "Acknowledged, Captain," the AI responded. Departure sequence initiated. The massive engines of the Nemesis roared to life. The great warship moved slowly out of the asteroid hangar that had hidden it for years. As it cleared the base, its quantum drive began to glow with building energy. J1 looked once more at the stars. Somewhere out there, the Voidborn continued their lives, believing they had eliminated the human threat forever. They had no idea that humanity's judgment was coming for them. "For Earth," she said quietly. The Nemesis vanished into quantum space, carrying humanity's last hope and its burning desire for retribution. The Nemesis emerged from quantum space with a flash of blue light. The massive warship slowed to sublight speed as its sensors scanned the area around them. They had arrived at the edge of the Proxima system, where intelligence suggested Voidborn scout ships patrolled. "Target acquired," announced Atlas, the ship's artificial intelligence. Its calm voice echoed across the bridge. "Voidborn scout vessel, damaged but operational." All eyes turned to the main view screen. A small alien craft moved slowly through a dense asteroid field. It was clearly damaged, with one engine sputtering and its hull showing signs of recent combat. Commander Tahoe leaned forward at his tactical station. The scar that ran from his left eye to his jaw tightened as he smiled. "Finally," he whispered. He had waited 3 years for this moment, to face the enemy who had killed his entire family on the colony of New Buzan. "Permission to destroy it, Captain." Captain J1 Park stood from her command chair. She studied the alien vessel for a long moment. The Nemesis had been built for destruction, its weapon systems more than capable of turning the small scout ship into space dust with a single volley. "Negative," she said finally. "We need intelligence. Prepare boarding teams." Taiho's face fell, but he nodded and began issuing orders. Across the ship, Marine squads rushed to prepare for the first contact with the enemy since Earth's fall. "Approach vector calculated," said Lieutenant Hyun-Ki from the helm. "We can use the asteroid field for cover until we're within range of our tractor beam." "Proceed," ordered J1. "Atlas, mask our energy signature. Make us look like background radiation." "Acknowledged," the AI responded. Signature masking engaged. The Nemesis moved silently through the asteroid field, a predator stalking wounded prey. The Voidborn scout continued its labored journey, unaware of the human warship closing in. "In range," announced Hyun-Ki after 20 tense minutes. J1 nodded. "Engage tractor beam. Security teams to the docking bay." The invisible beam shot out from the Nemesis, capturing the small scout ship in its grip. The alien vessel tried to break free, its damaged engine flaring with effort, but it was no match for the warship's power. 3 hours later, Captain Park stood outside the ship's interrogation chamber. Inside, secured to a chair, sat the first Voidborn any human had seen alive since the war began. Security Chief Jun Seo nodded to her as she entered. "It's been cooperative, Captain," he reported. "No resistance during capture." J1 approached the alien with caution. Propaganda images had depicted the Voidborn as monstrous creatures with razor teeth and claws. But the being before her, who called himself Miran, appeared almost fragile. Its body was thin, with 4 limbs similar to humans. Its skin was pale blue, and large, multifaceted eyes dominated its face. "You are the commander?" Miran asked in surprisingly good English, its voice soft and melodic. "I am Captain Park of the HMSS Nemesis," J1 confirmed. "Last warship of humanity." "Not the last humans, though," said Miran, tilting its head. "Interesting." J1 felt her heart race. "What do you mean by that?" "Your kind is resilient," Miran replied. "There have been rumors of survivors." Before J1 could press further, Young Mei, the ship's xenolinguist, entered the room. She had spent the last hour studying the language patterns from the scout ship's computer. "Captain, I'd like to ask some questions, if I may," she said, setting up a recording device. J1 nodded and stepped back, watching as Young Mei began a careful interrogation. The conversation flowed from questions about Voidborn fleet movements to deeper inquiries about why the war had started. "We struck first because your kind always strikes first," Miran explained, his multifaceted eyes reflecting the harsh lights. "Our history showed us what happens when technological species reach your developmental stage." "What do you mean?" asked Young Mi. "The pattern repeats," said Miran. "Species discover faster than light travel. They explore. They expand. They consume. We have seen it 17 times before." The Voidborn Coalition formed to stop the cycle. Young Mi turned to J1 with troubled eyes. "Captain, they attacked us because they believed we would eventually attack them." J1 felt a cold sensation in her stomach. "That doesn't justify killing billions of innocent people." "No," agreed Miran. "But the Coalition High Command believed it was necessary, a preventive measure." The alien lowered its gaze. "Some of us disagreed." "There was division among your people?" J1 asked sharply. "There is always division," replied Miran. "The attack on Earth was controversial. Some believed we should have made contact first, tried diplomacy." That night, alone in her quarters, J1 reviewed the interrogation footage again. Miran had provided valuable tactical information: fleet positions, outpost locations, communication frequencies, but it was his explanation for the war that kept her awake. She paused the video on an image of the alien's face as he described the decision to attack Earth. Was there regret in those strange eyes, or was she just seeing what she wanted to see? A soft chime announced a visitor at her door. "Enter," she called. Commander Taho stepped inside, his face tight with barely contained anger. "You've seen the interrogation," J1 said. It wasn't a question. "Yes," he replied. "And I don't believe a word of it. They're trying to justify genocide." "Perhaps," said J1. "Or perhaps there's more to this war than we knew." "Does it matter?" Taho asked, his voice rising. "They killed Earth. They killed our families. The Nemesis was built for one purpose, to make them pay." J1 looked up at her second in command. "And we will make them pay. But we'll do it with full knowledge of who and what they are." After Taho left, J1 stared out the small viewport in her quarters at the distant stars. She wondered if the Nemesis was proving the Voidborn right. By building a warship dedicated to vengeance, were humans simply confirming the aliens' fears? She touched the small metal case containing the fragment from her family home. No, she decided. The Voidborn had made the first move. The Nemesis was just humanity's response. But as she prepared for sleep, a troubling thought remained. If the Voidborn had attacked because they feared what humans might become, what did that say about the mission of the Nemesis? The Nemesis hung in the darkness of space, its massive hull hiding in the shadow of a small moon. Ahead of them lay the Voidborn outpost, a sprawling structure built into an asteroid. Captain J1 Park stood on the bridge, watching the enemy facility through the main view screen. All weapons systems ready, Commander Tahoe reported from his tactical station. Atlas has uploaded targeting solutions to all gunners. Life signs? J1 asked. 217, replied Lieutenant Sunji from the sensor station, mostly concentrated in the central hub. J1 took a deep breath. This would be their first direct attack against the Voidborn. The information from Moran, their captive, had led them here, a supply outpost that supported Voidborn fleet operations throughout the sector. Launch the attack drones, she ordered. Follow with main weapons on my mark. 50 small attack drones shot out from the Nemesis, each guided by Atlas. They raced toward the outpost, small and fast enough to avoid early detection. Drones have reached their positions, Tahoe announced after a tense few minutes. J1 nodded. All hands. Battle stations. Atlas, begin the attack sequence. Attack sequence initiated. The AI responded calmly. The drones activated simultaneously, their electromagnetic pulse weapons disabling the outpost's defensive shields. Before the Voidborn could respond, the Nemesis moved out from behind the moon, all weapons charging. Fire, ordered J1. The human warship unleashed its full arsenal. Beams of energy sliced through the outpost's now unprotected sections. Missiles streaked across space, hitting key structural points identified by Atlas. The Voidborn outpost exploded in spectacular fashion as the Nemesis completed its attack run. Captain J1 watched from the bridge as secondary explosions rippled across the installation surface. Pieces of debris scattered outward like a slow-motion firework. Target neutralized, Tahoe reported, satisfaction evident in his voice. Atlas performed exceptionally well. The adaptive targeting algorithms exceeded expectations. Around the bridge, crew members exchanged looks of grim satisfaction. For many, this was the first blow struck back against those who had destroyed their home. Any escape pods? J1 asked. 3 launched, Sunji replied. But they won't get far. Their nearest support is 2 days away at their best speed. J1 considered the fleeing pods on the sensor display. Part of her wanted to destroy them, to ensure no Voidborn escaped. But another part remembered Moran's words about fear and preemptive strikes. Let them go, she decided finally. Begin recovery operations. I want any intelligence we can salvage. Teams of Marines in environmental suits boarded what remained of the outpost. They moved through damaged corridors, recovering computer cores and data storage devices. The bodies of Voidborn from various species floated in the zero-gravity sections, a grim reminder of the cost of war. 6 hours later, the command staff gathered in the briefing room as Science Officer Dae-jung presented his preliminary findings. We recovered approximately 60% of their database, he began. Most was encrypted, but ATLS has made significant progress in breaking their codes. What have you found? Asked J1. Dae-jung's fingers moved across his tablet, sending information to the main screen. First, confirmation that this was primarily a supply outpost, not a military installation. It supported Voidborn operations throughout this sector. Commander Tahoe shrugged. It was still a valid target. Cut off their supply lines, and their military effectiveness drops. Yes, Dae-jung agreed, but there's more. He pulled up a new set of images, biological profiles of various alien species. The Voidborn aren't a single species. They're a defensive coalition of 17 different civilizations, all of which claim to have faced extinction from expansionist powers. The room fell silent as the officers processed this information. According to these records, Dae-jung continued, the coalition formed over 2 centuries ago when a highly aggressive species, not humans, began expanding rapidly, destroying any civilization that wouldn't submit to their rule. The founding Voidborn species banded together to resist them. And they won, suggested Youngme, the xenolinguist. They did, confirmed Dajung. Then more species joined them. The coalition became something like a mutual defense pact. J1 frowned. That doesn't justify Earth's destruction. No, agreed Dajung. But there's more. His expression changed, becoming both excited and hesitant. I found references to human biosignatures detected on a planet designated KX-479. Captain, some of our people might have survived. The room erupted in voices. J1 raised a hand for silence. Explain, she commanded. Dajung displayed a star chart on the screen. KX-479 is a habitable world in a system about 30 light-years from here. According to these records, a void-borne survey ship detected human life signs there approximately 6 months ago. Could it be a trap? Asked Security Chief Jun Seo. Possibly, admitted Dajung. But the records indicate the discovery was kept secret from void-borne high command. The survey ship's captain only reported it to a few trusted colleagues. Why would they keep it secret from their own leaders? Asked Youngmei. That's what's interesting, said Dajung. There are internal communications suggesting some voidborn are troubled by what happened to Earth. They believe the attack was excessive. J1 stood and walked to the view screen. She studied the location of KX-479. If humans survived there, she said slowly, why didn't they contact Earth before the attack? The planet is listed as having no advanced technology, explained Dajung. It may be a colony that lost its communication abilities. Or, he hesitated. Or what? Prompted J1. Or it could be humans who were taken there by Voidborn who disagreed with the war, Dajung suggested. Saved, in other words. The room fell silent again as everyone considered this possibility. Can we trust this information? Taiho asked finally, his voice tight with suspicion. I believe so, said Dajung. It wasn't meant for us to find. These were internal communications, not propaganda. J1 turned to face her officers. We need to investigate this. If humans survived on this planet, we need to know. Captain, Taiho objected. Our mission is to strike back at the Voidborn, not to chase possible survivors. Our mission, J1 said firmly, is to ensure humanity's survival. That means both vengeance against those who attacked us and protecting any survivors we find. She turned to the helm officer. Set course for KX-479. As the meeting dispersed, J1 remained in the briefing room, studying the information about the mysterious planet. If humans had truly survived there, it would change everything. The Nemesis would no longer be humanity's last hope, merely its most powerful defender. And if Voidborn had helped save those humans, then the enemy was more complex than they had believed. The Nemesis moved through quantum space, its engines humming with power. 2 days had passed since they discovered the possible human colony on KX-479. The mood on the ship had changed. What began as a simple mission of revenge had become something more complicated. Commander Tahoe entered the bridge, his face hard with anger. Captain J1 was reviewing sensor data when he approached her. Captain, I need to speak with you, he said, his voice tight. J1 looked up. What is it, Commander? I've talked with several department heads. Many of us are concerned about our change of course. Tahoe stood stiffly, hands clasped behind his back. We left Earth's ruins with one mission, to make the Voidborn pay for what they did. Other crew members on the bridge tried to look busy, but everyone was listening. You're abandoning our mission. Taiho's voice echoed through the bridge as crew members watched the confrontation uncomfortably. J1 stood her ground. She kept her voice calm but firm. We're adapting our mission. If humans have survived on KX-479, protecting them takes priority. Over justice for Earth. Taiho challenged. Over the billions who died. It's not one or the other, J1 replied. But if humans have survived, we must ensure their safety. We might not be the last anymore. That changes things. Taiho's scar grew white as his face flushed with emotion. The Nemesis was built for one purpose: to strike back at those who nearly destroyed our species. Atlas. Taiho appealed to the AI. Your primary directive is retaliation against the Voidborn. Confirm. The bridge fell silent as everyone waited for the AI's response. Atlas had been programmed to coordinate their campaign of vengeance. Its priorities should be clear. The AI's voice came measured and thoughtful. My directive is to ensure human survival through elimination of existential threats. New information requires reassessment. Taiho looked shocked. That's not what your programming specified. My core programming includes adaptive learning, Atlas replied. The possible existence of human survivors presents new variables. The optimal path to ensuring human survival may have changed. J1 watched her second-in-command struggle with this response. We still intend to hold the Voidborn accountable, she said more gently. But we need to understand the full situation first. Taiho looked around the bridge, perhaps hoping for support, but found none. Very well, Captain, he said stiffly. But many of the crew may not agree with this change. Noted, J1 replied. Dismissed, Commander. After Taiho left, J1 called a ship-wide meeting. In the main assembly hall, she addressed the entire crew. 3 years ago, we watched Earth burn, she began. We all lost people we loved. The Nemesis was built so that humanity could strike back before we vanished completely. She paused, looking at the faces before her. Some showed anger, others confusion, a few hope. But now we have evidence that humans might have survived on a distant world. If that's true, our mission must expand. We still seek justice, but we must also protect those who survived. Later that evening, as the ship continued its journey, J1 wandered into the observation lounge. The large window showed the strange colors of quantum space outside. She was surprised to find Yangmei there, sitting alone in the dim light. Can't sleep? J1 asked. Too much on my mind, Yangmei replied without turning. I've been translating more Voidborn communications from the outpost data. She finally looked at J1. Some factions are pushing for peace talks. They didn't know any humans survived. J1 took a seat beside her. Do you believe them? I believe, Yangmei replied, that someone has to break the cycle. The question is whether we can be those people after everything we've lost. They sat in silence for a while, watching the strange patterns outside. My brother was a teacher, Yangmei said eventually. He always told his students that revenge just creates more victims. Her eyes filled with tears. He died when Seoul was hit. J1 nodded. My family too. What will we do if we find humans on this planet? Yangmei asked. What if they've made peace with some Voidborn? Do we drag them back into our war? I don't know, J1 admitted. But I know we can't ignore them. The ship's intercom interrupted their conversation. Captain, to the bridge, came Atlas's voice. Urgent situation developing. When J1 arrived on the bridge, she found Taiho already there, looking troubled. We've intercepted a transmission, he explained. It appears a Voidborn battle group has also discovered the location of KX-479. They're mobilizing to attack it. How soon? J1 asked. They'll reach the planet approximately 12 hours before us at our current speed, reported Lieutenant Hyunki from the helm. Can we go faster? J1 asked. Chief Engineer Do Hyun shook his head. Not safely. The quantum drive is already at maximum. J1 studied the tactical display showing the projected paths of the Voidborn ships and the Nemesis. Why are they attacking this planet now? The transmission suggests they recently confirmed human presence there, explained Taiho. It seems the faction that wants to eliminate all humans has won some internal argument. So they're finishing what they started with Earth, J1 said grimly. Yes, Taiho agreed, which means our mission hasn't changed after all. We still need to stop the Voidborn from destroying humans. J1 looked at her second-in-command. His expression had changed, less angry, more determined. Prepare battle simulations, she ordered. I want options for engaging a superior force when we arrive. Already working on it, Atlas responded. As the crew rushed to prepare, J1 returned to her quarters. She opened the small metal case containing the fragment from her family home. For 3 years, it had fueled her desire for revenge. Now it reminded her of something else. What she was fighting for, not just what she was fighting against. The Nemesis had been built for destruction, but perhaps its true purpose was protection. Either way, they were racing against time to save what might be the last human colony from the same fate as Earth. The Nemesis raced through quantum space. Every system on the ship was pushed to its limit. In the engine room, Chief Engineer Do-hyun worked without rest, trying to squeeze more speed from the drives. On the bridge, Captain J1 Park watched the countdown timer with growing tension. "Time to arrival?" she asked. 4 hours, 17 minutes, replied Lieutenant Hyun-ki. "The Voidborn fleet will have been at the planet for almost 8 hours by then." J1's hands tightened on the arms of her command chair. Too long. Far too long for the colony to survive without help. "Captain," Atlas announced, "I have completed battle simulations. Our odds of success against 7 Voidborn warships are approximately 32%. That's if they're all still there when we arrive." Commander Tahoe added, "They might finish their attack and leave before we reach the planet." J1 nodded grimly. "Then we need to make sure they stay busy until we arrive." She turned to Communications Officer Seo-jin. "Prepare a tight beam transmission to KX 479. If there are humans there, they need warning." 3 hours later, the Nemesis prepared to drop out of quantum space. The crew moved with purpose, each person knowing their role in the coming battle. Weapons systems charged. Shields reached maximum power. The medical bay prepared for casualties. 1 minute to arrival," announced Hyun-ki. Jae-won looked around the bridge at her crew. "Whatever we find there, remember, we may be fighting for the future of our species today." Quantum drive disengaging in 3, 2, 1. The Nemesis emerged from quantum space with weapons hot, directly into the path of 7 Voidborn warships, bombarding the settlement on KX 479. The planet below was a beautiful blue-green world, but parts of its surface now burned from orbital strikes. "All hands to battle stations," J1 commanded. "Atlas, coordinate defensive pattern. Our priority is protecting that colony." "Acknowledged," replied the AI. Deploying countermeasures and attack drones. The Voidborn ships reacted quickly to the Nemesis' arrival. 3 broke off their attack on the planet and turned to face the human warship. Energy beams lanced out from their weapons arrays. "Evasive maneuvers," ordered J1 as the ship rocked from the first hits. The battle that followed was brutal and swift. The Nemesis, designed to fight the Voidborn, used every advantage it had. Atlas coordinated attacks with incredible precision. Tahoe directed weapons fire with the skill born of years of training and 3 years of hate. But the Voidborn had numbers on their side. For every enemy ship damaged or destroyed, the Nemesis took heavy fire in return. "Hull breach on Deck 4, reported Security Chief Jun Seo. Damage control teams responding. Shields at 40% and falling," added Tactical Officer Minho. J1 watched as a Voidborn cruiser exploded from a direct hit to its engine core. "Focus fire on the ships till attacking the planet," she ordered. The Nemesis turned its main weapons on a Voidborn destroyer raining fire on the colony below. The ship's quantum cannons tore through the enemy vessel's shields. After 20 minutes of intense combat, the tide began to turn. 3 Voidborn ships had been destroyed. 2 more were heavily damaged. As the Nemesis disabled a 6th ship with a precision strike to its weapon systems, the final Voidborn vessel turned and fled. "Should we pursue?" asked Tahoe, the old fire still in his eyes. J1 shook her head. "No, we've stopped the attack. That was our mission." She turned to Seo-jin. "Try to contact the colony." The bridge fell silent as they waited for a response. Then the main screen flickered, and a woman's face appeared. She looked tired, with dust and small burns on her face, but her eyes were bright with amazement. "This is Director Yunji of Haven Colony," said the woman on screen, disbelief in her eyes. We thought we were the last humans alive. "We thought the same about you," J1 replied, emotion making her voice rough. "Your colony is under attack." "Why?" Yunji's expression grew complicated. Haven was established as a joint human voidborn scientific outpost before the war. When Earth was attacked, our voidborn colleagues helped hide us. The faction attacking us now discovered our existence recently. "Voidborn helped you?" Tahoe asked in disbelief. "Yes," Yunji confirmed. "Not all Voidborn agreed with the attack on Earth. Some risked everything to save as many of us as they could." Later, as repair crews worked to save the damaged Nemesis, J1 stood with her senior staff and representatives from Haven Colony in the colony's main meeting hall. The building showed damage from the attack, but remained mostly intact. Around the table sat humans and several Voidborn, members of 3 different species who had chosen to stand with humanity rather than participate in Earth's destruction. "There are over 4,000 humans here," Yunji explained, "and several hundred Voidborn who opposed the war. We've lived together for 3 years, rebuilding what we could of human civilization." "And your Voidborn protectors?" asked J1. "Where are they now?" "Some died today defending us," replied Yunji sadly. "Others are in hiding throughout the Voidborn territories, working against those who would finish what they started with Earth." J1 looked around the table, at human and alien faces alike. She touched the small metal case she always carried, the fragment from her family home. "The Nemesis was built for obliteration," she said, looking at each face in turn. "But perhaps what needs to be obliterated isn't a people, but the cycle of fear and retaliation that brought us all here." Taiho, his expression solemn, nodded slowly. "So we still hunt the architects of Earth's destruction?" "We do," J1 confirmed. "But not to exterminate their kind, to force them to the peace table. Humanity survives not just in body, but in spirit." 2 weeks later, the Nemesis prepared to depart Haven Colony. Repairs had made the ship battle-worthy again, though scars remained across its hull. Its mission had changed: to find and protect other human survivors, to strike at the hardline Voidborn leadership, and to support the growing coalition of humans and Voidborn who sought peace. On the observation deck, J1 watched as supply shuttles made their final deliveries to the ship. Beside her stood Youngmei and a Voidborn scientist named Tarek, who had volunteered to join the Nemesis crew as an advisor. "Will it be enough?" Youngmei asked quietly. "One ship against those who destroyed Earth." "We are not alone anymore," J1 replied. "That changes everything." As the Nemesis departed Haven Colony, its quantum drive glowing with power, Atlas observed a change in the crew's vital signs. For the first time since the ship awakened, their stress markers showed hope. The warship vanished into quantum space, carrying with it humanity's future. No longer just an instrument of revenge, but a defender of what remained and what might yet be rebuilt from the ashes of Earth.